NASCAR is at the Chicago Street Course here on Independence Day weekend. At the time of this recording, the Cup Series practice is about to begin. Looking at some of our favorites here for the weekend include, of course, Shane Van Gisbergen, who is fresh off his dominance in Mexico City. Of course, SVG got the win in the first Chicago Street Course race 2 years ago. You also had Alex Bowman, who got the win last year. And then a couple drivers that have had double top 10s at the track include Michael McDowell, Ty Gibbs, and kind of surprisingly to me, Kyle Busch. You also have Justin Haley, who's had a top 5, as well as Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick. Now, in the next-gen era, Chris Buescher has the best average finish in 19 road course races with an 8.81 win, which came at the Glen last year. And then 4 top 5s, 15 top 10s in just 8 starts. Shane Van Gisbergen has a 10.9 average finish through 8 races. The 2 wins, of course, Chicago Street 2 years ago and Mexico City a few weeks ago. 6 top 10s in those 8 races. Of course, he does have the 1 DNF at Chicago from last year, though not really his fault. He got Chase Briscoed in the rain, if memory serves me correct, and it is due to rain again tomorrow. So 3 straight years of rain in Chicago. I think it'll be a fun race, probably be a little chaotic, and looking forward to seeing how the Xfinity race goes. I actually don't recall who got the win last year. I know the first year's race was weather shortened because they set it to be way too long. So we'll see how that goes. But anyways, welcome to Who's That Driver, episode 16. I'm your host, Zach Rogers, and today I'm joined by a league runner over in the Fuel series. He runs the Fuel Sportsman series. You know him as probably the most unique controller driver on the game of NR 2003. It is none other than Apollo Hyde. Apollo, how are you doing today?
We're just chilling out here on 4th of July weekend. We got some pretty nice weather here in Harrisburg, and we're just trying to relax here on a holiday weekend.
Right, and I just want to address real quickly because I think I already botched it, but if I botch your pronouns during this episode, I apologize completely. I'm just so used to saying he, him, and I know you technically go by they, them, but you've never corrected me, so I'm just kind of in the habit of it.
Yeah, no, I'm not someone that's gonna really correct people on it. It doesn't really matter too much to me. Honestly, you can call me whatever.
All right. I'll call you the J-pop man. How about that?
Yeah, that works. That works for me.
Well, let's get into motorsports here. We'll dive right in. What got you into motorsports, who your first favorite driver was, and your
Yep.
favorite form of motorsports.
Of course. So, my dad was a really big NASCAR fan back in the 90s, huge Jeff Gordon fan. Yeah, he had a lot of Jeff Gordon merchandise, which he's since given to me since he's moved out to Arizona now. But he was a big NASCAR fan, and I kind of just followed in his footsteps, watching the NASCAR races with him growing up. And my favorite driver ended up being Mark Martin, as I really took a liking to all of the Roush Racing guys, like all of them: Martin, Kenseth, Biffle, Edwards, Burton. Basically anybody that was coming up in the Roush Racing system. I like them all. Even Kurt Busch to a small extent. I kind of thought he was a bit of a idiot, but mid 2000s Kurt Busch.
Oh yeah, mid 2000s Kurt Busch, champion, but also a bit of a maniac.
He was an actual menace to society. And then, as Mark Martin got into his later years, he went over to Hendrick, had his little bit of a resurgence, and that was really awesome to experience. That 2009 season was really just magical for any Mark Martin fan. And after that, Mark Martin kind of just faded off into the sunset, driving for Michael Waltrip and Stuart Haas, and I think a couple for Joe Gibbs as well. And then after that, all of the good drivers started leaving Roush because Edwards couldn't get a championship. And then Kenseth also went over to Joe Gibbs. And then Biffle got old and retired. And before we knew it, the Roush Racing was Ricky Stenhouse and Trevor Bayne.
Mm. Yeah, that was a tough period.
Not let's just say it's not was not a good period to be a Roush Racing fan. Uh, that was not a fun period, but at least we got a couple of wins in 2017 out of Ricky Stenhouse
Recky
somehow.
Stenhouse, Recky Spinhouse Jr. That was the year he won. Was it a Dega race and the Daytona Summer race, wasn't it? And he like
Yeah,
wrecked half the field at Daytona, I think it was, which
yeah, no,
pissed
he
off a lot
definitely
of
did.
drivers.
Well, the good news is that he's still got that fire in him with this host of our rivalry.
Oh yeah, that's been quite the show. I'm just kind of waiting. You're gonna get him when it matters.
I wouldn't be surprised if Stenhouse and Hocevar get into it again here at the Chicago Street Course because it's a really tight track. Obviously a lot of low speed, heavy braking corners. So you basically have like road course Martinsville essentially. So if the 4777 come anywhere close to each other, it's gonna be a show. But yeah, and then after that, Roush Racing got Chris Buescher back, which was awesome. I was actually in attendance for Chris Buescher's first career win at Pocono. That was certainly a
The fog
day.
show. That was the
Yeah,
fog
that was
show,
the
right?
fog ball. Yeah, it was. And the funny thing about that day is that, of course, Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart were also there as well. Because Gordon was subbing in for Earnhardt Jr., who had concussion issues, and Tony Stewart was on his victory tour. So the fans were going crazy for Stewart and Gordon, obviously, because we knew it was going to be the last time that we'd be seeing either of them on the track. There was, I think, Martin Truex Jr. ended up blowing a tire twice during that race. I think he blew them both in the tunnel turn while leading. It's like he blew one, they got the car back on track, got it repaired, and then they blew a second one, which is crazy. But yeah, it was a crazy day. The downpour was like 5 minutes north of the racetrack, and trying to get out of the track with the torrential downpour that was just north of the track was terrible. Uh, and now that kind of just gets over to current day where we have Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, and now Ryan Preece as well hasn't looked half bad. Of course, Keselowski had a just disastrous start to the season. Not what you like to see, but the six cars slowly been getting more speed, and I've been happy to see RFK's progress throughout the season. I hope it continues on.
Yeah, yeah, no, same. I didn't like Brad too much about 10, 11 years ago when he had his Menace campaign in 2014 and he was just running into everybody. But he's grown on me here over the last few years. I like him. I like him more than I used to dislike him. And Busher's cool. I like seeing them win here and there for sure. Especially that run Busher had there. What was it in the summer of 22 or was it the summer of 23 where they were just racking up wins?
Yeah, I think they got back-to-back wins. I think in 2023 it was
Yeah,
because it
2023.
was it was a Michigan. It was Poke Richmond and Michigan, not Pocono. Richmond
And
and
then
Michigan.
Daytona too.
Yep.
Brad just was like, "Yeah, I'll just push him to the win. It's no big deal. We're in already anyway." So he was like, "More playoff
Yeah,
points for Chris."
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I wish the chase went a little bit better for him, but
It's a
there
crapshoot.
there's yeah, anything can happen in the championship. Oh, or maybe not because we've had three playoffs in the next gen and the same teams won it all three times. So maybe it's not a crapshoot. Maybe Penske's figured it out.
Yeah, I think it also helps for Penske that the finale's been at Phoenix, and that seems to be like their track to win at. Though in the
Yep.
spring this year, it seemed like Bell was really good, of course, again, which he's been always good
Yep.
at Phoenix, but Bell was like the guy to beat, and I think somebody else was up front from Chevy. I forget if it was Byron or Larson. They were really good as well, I believe. So Penske's not a shoo-in this year, I don't think. But if you let Joey Logano win Las Vegas again, it'll. Oh, I fear it'll be four-time Joey, and I don't. I already hate that we have three-time Joey. So
Yes, that is your three-time champion. I think 34-time race winner and guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer Joey Logano.
yes, yes. I mean, I give him
That
credit.
ruffles a lot of fans.
He's won a lot of races, which I will say, well, good. I'm glad he's won a lot of races. Get up to 40 wins, and then I won't feel so bad about you having three titles because I think he's got the. Yeah, he definitely has the least amount of wins for a three-time champion because I think
Yeah.
obviously our only three-time champions are DW and Kale, and they're up in the 81 club, which that
80s.
was a different
Yep.
era for sure. So I don't think Joey will get up there. But if Joey can get to 50, I think he's got enough time to get that many wins.
And
But
and Joey's got enough time to get up to 50. He's going to be racing for at least the next 7, 8 years as long as he stays healthy.
yeah, absolutely. And of course, he also wants to stay competitive. So if he's winning races every year, I'm sure he'll keep going. But if he starts to feel he's fizzling out, he might just say, "I'll go to the broadcast booth early," kind of like Ned Jarrett did in a way. I think Ned Jarrett, he got his like Ned. Did Ned win two or
Well,
three?
he I know he won at least the two in a row in 64 and 65. I can't remember if he got one before that. He got 61 and 65.
Okay, but
So
yeah,
two.
Ned had his two, and then he had his dominant run there in the '60s, and he retired, I believe, relatively early. I think I remember
Mhm.
seeing that he could have gone longer and won probably more races and titles, but he ended up retiring early. So if
He
Joey
had
could go that route, but you never know.
I mean, yeah, but also Ned Jarrett, like by 1965, had already won everything that you could possibly win in NASCAR. Like he won the Daytona, he'd won the Southern 500, like he won the World 600. He's won the championship multiple times over. What else did he need to win?
Yeah,
So that's why he kind of retired early because he'd already done everything. Like he won the Southern 500 by 13 laps.
yeah. Talk about a different era. 13 lap win, man. That's crazy.
That is the largest margin of victory in NASCAR history, and that's never going to be topped. That is an insane margin of victory.
I mean, the stages too. Like we have stages now, so like
Yep.
there's no way that you're ever gonna see somebody win by a lap. I mean, we got close in Xfinity last fall, or was it this spring? This spring we got close at Homestead because Larson was just gone. I mean, he lapped up
Yep.
to I think like fifth place. I mean, if there wasn't stages, he would have lapped the whole field. That would have been quite the show if he had done that. But yeah, stages I think prevent us from having large margins of victory, and plus I think NASCAR likes knowing they know they can throw a fake debris yellow here or there to spice it up at the end. Cause yeah, ratings. They want them ratings, man.
NASCAR's gonna NASCAR.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of NASCAR, let's get into NASCAR Racing 2003 season.
Sure.
So I'll start it off with this. How did you get into the game and when?
So I got into the game. I guess you could say that I didn't really get into the online competitive space until 2022, where I was kind of dragged in by a couple of friends. They just approached me, like, "Hey, we do this. We're going to be doing this online racing on Wednesday nights. Do you want to show up?" I was like, I don't know. I haven't done it in so long because the last time I had done serious online racing before that would have been back in 2014 when I was playing Gran Turismo 6. So I was, way out of practice for competitive racing, but they kind of just continue to tag me on, just be like, come on, come race with us. So I did, and that's how I eventually got into the competitive space. But I've been playing the Papyrus racing games like casually for quite a while. Like the first the first NASCAR game I ever touched was NR 1999.
Okay.
That was really my first game, and of course I was only like 6 years old at the time, and I just played it on keyboard because I had full steering assist, like full braking assist, and all that stuff. So I just played it for fun on keyboard. I wasn't ever trying to like be uh good at it or anything. I just like, oh, good. Fast cars go around in circles. Wee. And I remember also using the paint booth on it quite a bit because the native paint booth in NR99 was actually super cool. Like it was super in depth. It came with a lot of preloaded logos and numbers, so you didn't just have to like use the pencil tool or download some other program to edit a template. You could just do it right there in the game. They had a lot of interesting sponsors and fonts that you could put on the car. So that was super cool. But yeah, I've been running with the Papyrus games for quite a while, like on and off for 20 years, but really only competitive like within the past 2 or 3.
Right on. Yeah, I think I saw on your YouTube channel that you had a hot lap video from about ten years ago or so. So I didn't, I was like, oh, like Apollo's been running NR that long? Like, how come I never saw them in the online sphere? And then you just told me, like, oh, yeah, that's right. They came in around 2022. So,
Yep, yeah. So I'm definitely late to the show. There are a couple of old NR videos that I have on there. Like I have one NR video of the Charlotte Roval where I actually got copyright claimed by NASCAR because my lap time or the line that I was running around the track was too close to a Justin Haley onboard camera.
that's funny.
And I actually ended up editing it to compare the live broadcast to the onboard that I had at the Roval, and it was actually pretty close. I can totally see how the bot ended up flagging that. I think that was back in 2018 or 2019.
Wow.
Uh, it, yeah, so that was a long time ago.
Well,
uh,
so thankfully, since you came in so so soon to the time of this podcast, like, so it hasn't been too long since your first online league race. What did that first online league race look like? Number, mod, track, how you did?
Yep. So my first online league race would have been at Talladega. It was actually Score's first ever race,
Okay.
and yeah, it was their first ever race. I was in the number 92 Ford because at the time I ran the number 92 in basically racing every single racing game that I played because I'm actually kind of a geek for like the older NASCAR, like the 50s and 60s NASCAR, and 92 is what the fabulous Hudson Hornet ran
Okay.
back in the day. So that was Herb Thomas's number. So that's why I ran 92 on basically everything. And the race, I ended up finishing third in that race just by getting cleaned out early on. But the car count wasn't spectacular. I think we only had like 8 or 9 people, and the race ended up being won by Redacted.
Uh-oh. Which redacted?
So,
Can we give the initials at least? The people at
uh,
home will figure it out if we give the initials at least.
it's a different ZR.
Oh, a different ZR. Okay, I don't know anything about that one. Okay, so where did you finish, did you say?
Third.
Third? All right. When did you get your first league win?
So my first league win would have come in Score. I'm trying to remember specifically what race it was. I want to say, yeah, it was actually the second race that we ended up doing. It was at Rockingham.
All right, Rockingham Apollo.
And that actually kind of started off a streak where all of my wins seemed to come at mile length tracks. Like I got a win at Rockingham. I ended up getting a win at Iowa, which was a super funny race I think it was only a 75 lap race, so you could go all the way to the end without pitting. So I did. I ended up leading all 75 laps without even pitting,
Huh.
which is still the funniest win I've ever done. And then over at ISRL, I ended up going into their second tier series. I can't remember what it's called, and I ended up winning
I
a Rockingham race there.
think they called it Academy.
Yes, the Academy. So I seem to, at least early on, I seem to have a really big affinity for those mile-long courses. Of course, I would also put on strong showings at Dover as well. I haven't. I've only gotten the one sportsman win at Dover. I'm hoping to get another in GNS when we end up going there in a couple of weeks. But yeah, early on it seemed like those mile tracks were really good for me.
Right on. What would you say was one thing you struggled with when you first started on controller? I know you mentioned you did keyboard casually, but you're known for being on controller with the crazy hot laps and all that stuff. What was one thing you struggled with?
Well, it certainly wasn't hot lapping. I've even coming into these leagues early on, it was very apparent that I had the speed to be good. The speed was never in question. It was a matter of learning how to pace myself through this game and learning how to work with my controller and knowing just how much steering angle I can put into the car without burning up my tires. That's really the most difficult thing that you can do because on controller, of course, there's and a 20% steering angle. It's like maybe a couple millimeter difference at most. And that difference between a 10 and a 20% steering angle can mean the world when it comes to how much you're using up your right front tire in your car in one of these races. So it's mainly learning how much steering I can put into the car and get away with it without burning up all of my stuff. Because that's the main thing about NR is that you can have the fastest times in the world, but you have to be able to pace yourself, especially at tracks with higher tire wear like Atlanta or Rockingham or Darlington or any of those tracks. In order to win at those tracks, it almost always it's not the fastest person that ends up winning those races. It's the person that's able to pace themselves the best, and it's really difficult to figure out that happy medium on a controller.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember running controller for a handful of time when I didn't have a desk that would really work to clamp a wheel onto, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge to figure out, and I didn't do it for too long, but I typically did pretty well on the either the super speedways or the short tracks. Surprisingly enough, if we had like short enough runs, I would be pretty dang good on the short tracks.
Yeah, you're definitely a lot better on the short tracks than I am. I
Oh,
admit
now
that
yes.
I'm I fully admit that I'm not good on the short tracks. That's my biggest weakness as a driver. Bristol and Martinsville, both of them, I'm not good at all.
Right on. So let's talk about the number thing because you said you ran 92 to start. When did
Yes.
you get the idea to switch to 100 and stick with it?
So that idea basically came around when I went into ISRL, where they basically said, "Hey, we're allowing triple-digit numbers," and somebody else had already taken number 92. I can't remember who it was, but I know somebody else already ran 92 pretty religiously in that league. So I had to come up with another number to run at the time. And I thought over to my other favorite racing series, Super GT. And I'm thinking, well, they allow triple digit numbers. The number 100 is wide open. Nobody really runs the number 100. So, hey, let me go ahead and do this. I can make a scheme that kind of pays tribute over to Team Kunimitsu over there in Japan, and we can see how that ends up suiting me going forward. And the number 100's kind of just stuck with me. I've run it in any league that allows me to run the number 100, and if they don't allow me to run the number 100, uh, I kind of just run whatever now.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So talking about controller again, how did you
Hmm.
come up with the settings that you run? Did you get any tips, or did you just kind of like tinker and experiment, and then you got what you got? Because you run on a
So
Xbox controller, correct?
yep, yes I do. So the settings that I run, I mean the steering linearity that I'll run varies depending on the setup. If I'm running like a really loose, twitchy setup like I would run in like GNS for like an open setup, I'll run my linearity as low as 20%. Especially on all of my hot lap videos where the car has to be loose in order to be good. That's all with steering linearity on 20%. Because I have to be able to control the car's switchiness. If my steering is too sensitive, I'll just snap the car coming off of turn 4, and nobody wants that. So, but if the car is a lot more reserved for a more beginner leaning fixed setup race, I'll run like up to 70% linearity because the twitchy steering can actually be a benefit because that allows me to use a little bit more right rear tire on exit. And anytime that you can use that right rear tire on an understeering car, that's always going to be a good thing. So there's that. And then for super speedways, I always run 40% because that just seems to be a perfect balance between maneuverability of being able to switch lanes late and being able to actually hold a line. That seems to be a really good balance there, 40%. As far as the other settings, honestly, I don't really tinker with them too much. I just put the braking momentum at whatever value I don't lock up the brakes at. And my throttle and steering momentum have always been 0%. I've never touched them.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I know when I was on controller, I didn't understand what steering linearity did, and I never asked anyone about it. So my when I first plugged a controller in to race on NR in around, I think it was like early 2015, it defaulted to 30%, and I just left it there. So it was always 30%. But now if I, ever had to go back to controller, if like say like my wheel broke and I didn't have money to get a new wheel, if I had to plug a controller in, I would probably just put it to zero because I already run pretty low linearity with the wheels. So I'd probably just throw it
Hmm.
right to zero, and that would hopefully allow me to not have to make too many changes to any setups of mine that I run at an open league. And then for fixed setup leagues, it would probably, help me save my right front that little bit. But yeah, hopefully that never day has to come. I love being on a wheel. Like there's nothing better, but you get comfortable, and that's kind of the thought process. Whatever you're comfortable with, there's nothing better, and you don't want to go out of your comfort zone too much.
Exactly. That's the way that I am with a controller. Like one of the misconceptions with me is that a lot of people think that, oh, you have a controller, you must not have a wheel. I have two wheels sitting in the corner. I have a G29 and a G923 sitting in the corner. Like I have both of them. And I've tried using them for NR, and I just the amount of the way that I explain it to people is that look, I've been using controllers on racing video games since Gran Turismo 1. That's on the PlayStation 1. All right. So I know how to use a controller really well for racing games. In order for me to learn a wheel, I'm going to have to put in way, way, way more time into learning how to use a wheel properly to get up to the skill level that I'm at on a controller as it would be for me to put time into figuring out how to potentially hone in my craft on a controller because I can make some adjustments with how I move my hands on the controller and I could be fine uh ish. It's not perfect obviously, but on a wheel it everything is just so different, and the way that I apply the accelerator on my controller just does not translate over to a wheel whatsoever. So it's like I just do not know how to apply the throttle on a wheel.
Right,
It's
because
just
when you're on controller, you just use the buttons, right? You're not using the
yeah,
triggers.
yeah, Exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to explain that for those listening that might not have known that. Apollo will use the buttons for throttle and brake instead of the triggers. So if anyone ever goes and watches a hot lap that Apollo has done, they've got the controller in the top right, and you can see the inputs, and you can clearly see pressing the button, not the trigger, which is
Yep.
quite unique.
Yeah, nobody else really does that, and I'm not going to go out and say I recommend that you do this if you use a controller. No, of course not. If you're used to it, you know how to do it, then sure, go ahead and try it. But if that's not something that you're used to, don't go out of your way and try to learn it that way. Obviously, the trigger's so much more beginner friendly, and you'll want to use it that way. But the way that I've learned how to use a controller is because NASCAR Thunder 2003 and 2004. Well, I'm playing that on the PlayStation 2. Whether if I'm using the A and X buttons or if I'm using the L2 and R2 buttons, they're buttons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right on.
I never played those games on triggers. And same thing with Gran Turismo. Whether if I'm using the buttons there or the shoulder buttons, they're still buttons. So either which way, I'm learning how to drive a car with just the buttons. And it kind of just stuck with me.
It's funny when I was a kid growing up, I always went for like the A button, B button on a GameCube controller, or the X and the
Hmm.
square on a PlayStation controller. And then it was only later that I realized, like, like on a GameCube controller, if I use R and L for throttle and brake, it's actually way more comfortable. So I like eventually like switched to that, and I did the same thing with the PlayStation. I was using the R2 or an L2 or the R1 and L1, as opposed to using the buttons. I kept those for like share draft and intimidate and other stuff. That was
Yep.
easier on like the hand comfort to do it that way.
And for me, it's a lot easier to use the buttons because what I'll do is I don't show the controller grip often, but what I'll do is I'll just place my entire thumb across what would be the A and X button on a controller, or the square and cross button on a PlayStation controller, and I just have my whole thumb, and when I want to accelerate, I just push my knuckle down into the throttle button, and when I want to brake, I just curl my thumb up and I apply pressure with the tip of my thumb on the brake button. So I kind of have my thumb across both of the buttons at all times when I'm running these races.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty interesting. To be able to just like move your thumb up and down like that as necessary. Anytime I do like a button thing, I'm always just kind of moving the tip of my thumb over. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
like the two finger thing on a controller became more comfortable for me, because then I was using left pointer and right pointer as opposed to like moving my thumb around on the the circular buttons.
Yeah, and I think that's just the difference with me is that I've got that little technique that it's something that I've learned, and I can't tell you how I've learned it. I can't tell you how it works because I don't know. It's just like a little instinct thing. It's like, oh, I just do this and I press the button here and it works.
It's like the heel toe of thumb pressing.
Yes, it really is.
It's kind of funny. So who would you say your main rival has been in your time online with NR? Positive or negative rival, just someone you're typically racing around.
Well, in GNS, it's unquestionably Vincenzo Focasato. We have been going at it like crazy in GNS this season. Like we've been trading wins back and forth. Like he just got me at Atlanta and Daytona in back-to-back weeks. I got hit. He also got me at Anchorage. I ended up getting him at oh brother, why am I blanking on the schedule? I know that I got a clean win at Nashville Super Speedway. Good lord, my mind is blanking, but I know that I've got a slight points lead on him regardless. I think we're 3 for 3 on wins. For some
Nice.
reason my other two wins are not coming. Oh yeah, Pocono. The Pocono win that we just had, which was really awesome because Pocono being my home track, that track means a lot more to me than any of the other tracks, and being able to be done at any track under any circumstances is pretty good. So I'll add that feather to my cap. And yeah, so we've been trading wins back and forth. We've had a couple different photo finishes, one at a dirt track, one at a super speedway. We just seem to always find each other on the racetrack. So without question, over in fuel, it's Vincenzo Focusato. As far as other series, me, Crystal Bennett, and Keon Daly kind of all come together, and we're all in a roughly similar skill set in terms of speed, anyways. So the three of us are able to compete against each other at most tracks. Road courses, I've definitely got an advantage there, but on ovals, it's typically pretty close between the three of us, and we typically just throw up lobbies with the three of us, maybe throw a couple AI on the track, and we'll just have fun for like an hour.
Nice. That's always a good time.
Yep.
What's the dumbest thing you've ever done on track? And we get the fun questions now. We're getting into the fun questions now.
Oh no.
Usually usually the popular question is, have you ever intent wrecked another driver? That's typically at the top of people's dumbest things list, but
I can't ever remember if I've intentionally wrecked another driver. I've gotten loose. I've wrecked people, obviously not on purpose, or I'm just trying to drive a car too hard off the corner, and it kind of looks like that I've intent wrecked them, but I'm just overdriving the piss out of a car and I clip them. You know, not something that I ever want to do. God, there's a lot of stupid things that I've done. Running into the pit wall at Grand Junction has to be up there.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Oh my god. That's
an all-time moment right there.
That's a number one. That's got to be number one on there right now. Another one that I can remember is going back to ISRL and their banked Motegi race. There was a time where I ended up getting just collected mid-corner, and I just tried to merge to pit road, and I was not looking at my mirrors, and 5 other cars ended up coming to my inside, and I was like, well, that's the end of this race.
Dang.
Because I was already not having a good time in that race to begin with, and the person that I was drafting with was not wanting to go anywhere, and it was frustrating me because I had a really good car, and yeah, that race just didn't go well. I'm trying to think of other stupid things that I've done. Those are the 2 that come to my mind right away. Just a blind merge to pit road at Twin Rim Motegi and running into the pit wall at Grand Junction, thinking that I was gonna fit my car into a negative 0.25 car width hole that wasn't there. That was pretty bad.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna have to go with that one.
That was funny for me because I was watching Robert Kubat's stream, and I saw you behind them, and I'm like, where does Apollo think they're going? Like, there's no gap there, and then boom, clip the pit wall. And then I think even funnier about that was William Gregory's car got destroyed, and then like the lag removed the damage, which was hilarious.
That was terrific. I ain't ever had a bad race at that track, that's for sure. But that I think that one takes the cake. That's I don't think anything. I'm sure that I've done something stupider in Gran Turismo that happened like 15 years ago that I can't remember and is no longer on anybody's replay because everyone sold their Gran Turismo at their PlayStation 3s. But yeah, that's what I have to go with.
Have you ever butted heads with anybody? Anybody that comes to mind?
Sure. a lot of people.
What's the one that sticks
Back
out?
in we're gonna have to go back in the day for this because that would have gone to my days where I was running in a league that was called American Dust Racing in Gran Turismo 5.
Okay.
And this was this look, I was 16 years old at the time, and I thought I was king shit.
Yep.
I was not king shit. Let's just put it that way. I just thought that I was an unconquerable mountain, and I ended up joining a lobby of a bunch of people who were just straight up a lot better at the game than I was. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, you're running all steering assists. You're running like stability management and all these other assists on. Oh, this is going to be easy. I'm just going to walk into this lobby and I'm just going to beat them. So I like talk all the shit beforehand and I just get absolutely crushed. Like we're talking like I'm 3 seconds a lap slower at the Daytona road course.
Mm.
It's not even close. It's actually really hilarious. I think the team name was like FSR or something. It was not a it was definitely an experience to let me know. Okay, I need to back the hell off because these people over at ADR that I'd been racing with, I'd been beating them rather consistently. So I thought that I was doing really well, and I found out really quick that I was not doing very well. That there was so much more to learn when it comes to racing, and I immediately after that I went over to them. I was like, you guys, what the hell is this? Because we were a completely assists off type lead, like no ABS, no traction, no stability, no active steer, none of that shit. All disallowed. So I go over to the leader, Joey Martinez, and I could like, hey, what the fuck? You know what the hell's going on here? And you know he rightfully called me a dumb son of a bitch for doing all of that, and you know that kind of ended up devolving our racing relationship from there, and I kind of ended up going off and doing my own thing after that because you know again I was 16 years old at the time. Both of my grandparents had just passed within the last year at that point.
Damn.
I was not in the mood to put up with bullshit like that, so I kind of just quit for a while, like
Mm.
for a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, racing is humbling sometimes, you know?
Yeah, yes it is. Yes
someone
it is.
someone trying to tell me the other day, like, oh yeah, Zach never gets humbled. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I get humbled a lot too, you know? Like, you know, second I
You
think I'm
can
hot shit, next thing you know, I'm self spinning because I tried to push the car too hard.
yeah, exactly. Like uh, one of the things about one of the things about racing at the top levels that you're always on the edge. Like you're never in 100% control of your car. You might think that you are, but you're never 100% in control of that car. And all it takes is one little concentration mess up, and you're either in the wall, you're going backwards, maybe you push the car too hard, now you burn up your tire, you're spinning out, you get into another car, now you have damage. It's a mess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What's one moment between you and me that you can recall, if any? Some people always
I'll
people have problems with this question.
yeah. There's a lot of different moments because of course there's been a lot of different times where I've kind of been in your area but not quite competitive. There are two that really stick out with me. One was an ISRL race at Atlanta '97,
Yep, I remember that one.
which was a super cool event because basically went into that event where I'm like, all right, I'm playing with house money. I don't care about my tires. I'm just gonna give my car 110%. I don't care. Let's see what happens. And it could have turned out a lot worse than it did. So I thought I put on a good show there. I was never gonna win that race, obviously, but I led a couple of laps, and that was enough to make me happy for the day. And the other one was our recent battle in Fuel GNS at Rockingham.
Yep.
Which was really just a 99 lap long game of cat and mouse. And I thought maybe within the last 5 laps of the race, I just had a slight tire advantage or whatever. I thought maybe I might be able to get alongside of you, and then I tried to start shifting and push the issue to try to get to your outside, and it just never materialized. I was faster, but not fast enough to pass you.
Yeah, and dirty air can be a real burner
Yep.
on the right front too, especially on a track like that just erases your tire, like just melting it right off with every corner.
Yep. And all it takes is pushing the car for like 2 laps, and your tires will be gone.
Yeah, and I had a very tight setup for that track because of
Same.
how much I drive off the right rear. So I had to have a very
Yep.
tight setup because at the end of a run, it gets loose as all
Loose as
hell.
hell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're like
And
barely
like
putting the
going,
gas on, and the right rear is like no grip, and I'm like, well,
no,
shit.
no grip. Yeah, no, I'm right with you on that one. My setup was the exact same way. I think I was running like 51.5 or 52% front weight in it, which is something I never do for open setup. But like, if I tried to run an optimal lap time type of weight, which would be like 49 and a half, I would have no right rear tire after 25 laps, even if I took it easy. And that's I couldn't control the car after 25 laps, so it's like, okay, this is good on the early run, but on the late run I will be hosed because we're definitely going to go green for longer than 25 laps because this is fuel.
Mm.
You know, we typically get really long green flag runs. It's not really a caution for us league. It can be sometimes when we have a bad race like New Hampshire.
Or
Sometimes it happens.
Pocono last year, Indy last
Oh,
year. Those were those
yeah, the
races were
Pocono
bad.
last year was. Yeah, Pocono last year was rough too. I'm glad that our Pocono race this year went green for a large majority of it because that was a really fun race.
Yeah, sometimes you just
Uh,
got to take half the cars off the track, and then you're able to have a good race. You talk about good race at Pocono. We had a great one at Fast a couple of weeks ago. We only had the one yellow, so that was a ton of fun.
we yeah, that's always good to hear.
What race win or championship means the most to you?
Couple of tough ones because I do have, of course, I've got the Fuel GNS Championship that just happened that I was able to round up. And out of all my championships, that's the one that easily means the most to me. I say out of my championships as if I only have like so many of them. Come on, that's like my only championship that actually means anything at all. And having a championship in my own league, that's like bragging that I'm the king of an island that I just purchased in the Pacific Ocean. Like, okay, well, that doesn't mean anything. Like, I'm the admin of the league. Like, I make the rules. Well, it's not spectacular if I win.
Well, that might be more true for sportsmen than Grand National.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about with sportsmen.
Okay.
But for Grand National, that does mean a lot more because open setup is a lot more challenging, and typically a lot more competitive as well. Because again, Vincenzo is really good. Ike once in a while hits a setup. Tate once in a while hits a setup really well. Dunn is of course always fantastic. So whenever he shows up, he's always going to be up there. So yeah, the Fuel GNS Championship definitely means a lot. As far as individual wins, I mean, I don't really have a huge win over top level talent unless you talk about the sportsman race at Pikes Peak where you and Dunn kind of
Crashed.
got together.
Crashed. I tried the crossover and it didn't work.
So I guess that counts. But I mean, I guess I'll have to go with the most recent GNS race at Pocono because that that the pressure was on me the entire race. Like I couldn't pull away from the pack there. Vincenzo and Dunn were on me the entire race. I just had to make sure that I didn't use up too much of my stuff. And there was actually a point where I overshot my box and I could only take right side tires. And that was with 20 to go. And then a caution came out a little bit after that. So I came down pit road and I actually took left side tires only. So I had 6 lap older right side tires than Dunn and Vincenzo as well to win that race. So I really had to make sure that my car was going to be good to go. And it treated me very well.
Talk to me about, the fun of running a league. Of course, you got the Fuel Sportsman Series, but you're also in charge of Slower.
Yeah, that's unfortunately not. I wish we could get more people to show up to that because it's really super fun. I just can't host that kind of stuff weekly when we're only going to get like 3 or 4 people showing up every week. But the whole premise behind Slower is that we're all on tracks that I've made myself. So they're not tracks that you're going to find anywhere else. So they're all tracks I made myself, all ionized I made myself, and we just turn damage off, and we basically just say, all right, we're not going to throw any cautions, we're not going to have any damage, there's not going to be any rules, we're just going to run the race to the end, and we'll throw a midway caution so everybody can come down, get fuel and tires. Everything else is up to the drivers.
It sounds like Mondays of Thunder's SummerSlam a little bit. They do something similar where they were having like a civilized race where the damage was off, but you could like kind of run over the guy in front of you a little bit, bump and run. We were using a custom EXE and whatnot. And now we're just doing uncivilized races where anything goes, but they do have moderate damage turned on. But it's basically the same thing. They throw like 2 guaranteed yellows at the end of the stages, and then you also get the fun flags that the stage winner gets to throw before a certain point.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds like a more sophisticated version of what we were doing over there at Slower. But the main attraction over there is, like I said, the tracks that I've made for the series. I have, I think, like 16 different tracks fully made for the series, and we do run a couple of them over in Fuel. Obviously, the 3 super speedways have all featured in some way or another in the Fuel races, whether that be Anchorage, which is now an open setup spotlight on the schedule, Grand Junction, which we've had a couple of races there, and now Albuquerque, which was on the Sportsman's schedule recently and was probably the best race of the season. So those were all really good. We're going to be getting our first intermediate slower track into Fuel in the next Sportsman season with Augusta, which is basically a 1.5 mile kidney bean track. You could basically think of it as Trenton if Trenton was banked 25 degrees.
Huh.
Yeah, a track that you can get onto the outside wall and you don't jump up 20 feet.
Right.
But yeah, that's the main thing that I see fun in it, is that it's tracks that nobody has really seen before other than me. So it's a new experience for everyone. The thing is that I don't really have a good time to run it, because if I try to run it at some other time in competition with the league, people are going to show up to the serious races, so I don't want to conflict with those. But if I put it on like a special time, say Saturday at 6 o'clock, nobody shows up to 6 o'clock races.
Timing and days and everything. It's a real hassle when you're trying to like run a league and try to get some extra numbers in. Can be a real hassle.
Yeah, that's the main thing, is that I want to do this. This is something that I want to do. It's just I need to get a time where we can just run it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, this is my favorite question to ask. Everyone's got a different answer to this one. It's a 4-part question. You can answer it in any order. I feel like one of these will probably be obvious. Favorite mod, favorite track, favorite league to race at, and favorite physics type.
Okay, that's very interesting. Obviously, my favorite race, the favorite league to race at is Fuel. Like they're really super laid back there. You've got open and fixed setup leagues, and it's pretty reasonably competitive. And we also have a wide variety of skill levels in the race. We have a couple of people who I have. This is actually their first league that they've ever ran in, and they're jumping right into open setup, which God bless their soul, but jumping right in like that. We have people that are pretty much brand new to the game, and we also have people that have been around the game for 10, 15 years. So, we have a huge wide range of skills. So, if you're going to find somebody to race against if you do a fuel race, which I find to be so awesome. As far as a favorite mod, it's got to be Aero 88. Aero 88's my favorite just simply because not necessarily because of the age of the mod, but it's because of the age of the mod. There are so many different templates and so much support that came with Aero 88 when it first came out. If you can find all of the stuff. Like I got a template pack for Aero 88 that has like 120 different like makes and models in it, which is so
Wow.
super cool. Yeah, it's really super cool. So that's why I love Aero 88 because you can run something stupid like a Saturn, or you can run a Mercedes or a BMW or some other weird manufacturer that you just never see in the Cup Series, as opposed to, if we're running an XS20 or running the Gen 7 mod, like you're basically gonna have like Chevrolet, Ford, Toyota, Dodge, Honda, and Shrug.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I like the Aero 88 mod myself. I've been running like a mock alternate universe recently with Cup and Bush, and I just got done using Aero 88 on the Cup side, so got maybe like 1 or 2 more years left on the Bush side of using it, but I like never really touched it before, and like seeing all the paint schemes of the era on the Aero 88 mod from over the years that they made car sets for, it's a really cool mod.
Yeah. It's basically a portal into the past of the game, because I remember downloading the Aero 88 mod way back in 2008 when I was still on a Windows XP computer. And loving the Aero 88 mod then, and seeing that people are still using Aero 88 today, and there really hasn't been another mod to like update it or do anything to it, really just shows that the mod's really aged like fine wine. It's basically the mod of the entire 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have the hobby stock mod, which is like the mod that they made all the car sets for the 70s on.
Yep.
And then, Aero 88 comes around, and then you had Cup 90. And, now we have, like, thanks to Splash and Go and Cosmin, we have a little more of like a segue from Cup 90 to original Cup, where we've got the Winston Cup 98 mod.
Which is
So
also
there's
phenomenal.
a little bit of crossover there with the Winston Cup 98 into the Cup 90 car set stuff, which is cool. And of course, there was Cup 2000, which was made, which also kind of segues into original Cup. So there's like a pretty cool like set of mods there from like the 80s to the 2000s. And, now of
Yep,
course
definitely.
the 2010s that you had groups releasing a new mod like almost every year for a little bit.
And then picking my favorite track is, oh my god.
You now, if you want, you can do real life track and fictional track, because I know you've made quite a few tracks.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, sure, we could split it up between those two, because I feel like that my favorite fictional track is pretty easy, because I really love Old Spice as a track.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really love Old Spice as a track. Like it's just super cool. It's a really fun, fast, flowy road course, and I love racing there in NR. I love racing there in the EA games. I think that's a pretty easy pick as to that be my favorite fantasy track. Of course, my own track, Anchorage, is also unbelievable. That track is so good, but just for like the childhood nostalgia, I think Old Spice goes up a little bit. As far as my favorite real track, I mean,
Not Pocono?
uh, Pocono is up there, but I feel like if I pick Pocono, then like I feel like that I'm doing a disservice to Darlington. But then there's Atlanta that I really love. And I also really love Rockingham. And Dover's also up there. Like, oh my god, I wouldn't. I don't know how to choose. I don't know how to choose between those five because I love every single one of them, each in their own way. I I think it would be easier to pick a track that I don't like, which is Daytona and Daytona.
Daytona and Daytona.
Yeah, I do not get along with the Daytona International Speedway. But
You know what's funny is like I've won 8 races at Talladega. Two of them were like exhibitions, but I've won eight races at Talladega, and I only have I think 2 or 3 Daytona wins. Like I get along great with Talladega, but not with Daytona.
Daytona's just a different beast. Um, if you were to force me to choose and I had to pick one track, I would say Darlington.
All right, on, I can respect that. Talking about for myself, it's kind of the same way. Like I have so many that I really like. Talking about Chicago Street, we're running Chicago Street tomorrow at Fast. I've won that race 2 years running. The first year we had what is publicly released the iRacing layout, which is very narrow around the whole course. And then not yet publicly released the Chicago Street 23, which has got all the billboards and stuff based off of the 2023 race. It's wider in a lot of areas. It's got the fresher pavement on it. It's a lot more fun than the iRacing layout just because it's wider in some sections, but the like rhythm that I have found for that 2023 version track, it's just so much fun to drive. I mean, there's one like sketchy section where you got to be careful.
Yep.
Down at the it's like the double right there where the tires are to the left, and if you
Yep.
hit that inside wall, you are cooked. If you
Cool.
overshoot the braking zone, you are cooked.
Yep.
Um, Ryzen Baker actually murdered Jeffrey Goodpaster last year in the fast race. He completely missed the braking zone, and he threw his car to the right, flew by like 3 guys, and then Jeff was just like the one left innocent bystander, and he just got bowlinged into the tires. So that was unfortunate last year, but I'm looking forward to the race tomorrow. I did some practice yesterday. And, I'm kind of hoping maybe I can get beat this year because I had a great battle with Redacted by the name of JC. Everyone knows who that is in 2023. And then last year, Josh Moyers was I had a good lead on him, but I had burned my rears off too quickly in the last stint. And the gap in the last 3 or 4 laps, because I was trying to keep my rears from blowing, went from 7 seconds to like 7 tenths in the last 3 laps. I had to slow down so much. So
I
it'll
mean,
it'll eat your tires. It's a rear tire eater, Chicago Street, because you're like you said, it's slow corners every corner, so you're always on the gas in like first gear if you want to be quick.
yep. I haven't figured out a good way to do Chicago Street course yet, but that's mainly because I'm bad at braking. So if there's one big thing about me with road courses is that I'm still not terrific at figuring out consistent braking points yet. So that's like the one thing that's holding me back, and that's why I have the lap up for Sonoma because that only has really the two really hard braking zones, and I can deal with two. But as opposed to Watkins Glen, which has like five, I'm not going to hit five all in the same lap.
Yeah, you've got turn one, you've got the bus stop, and then you've got
Turn six and turn seven, both of them.
oh turns. You consider turn seven a heavy braking turn, or
If
is it because you have to swing from the right all the way to the left and then turn back to the right while braking? It can be kind of a
Yeah,
complicated section there.
that's the main issue.
I always feel like I take turn seven too narrow. Like I always feel like I cut back in too soon, but then I feel like if I cut in too late, I just completely miss the apex. It's always as fast as I am at Watkins Glen, that's always the corner where I feel like I'm losing like a tenth. Which like
I
whatever, if I can hit a 109, like what's the tenth?
yeah, true. For me at Watkins Glen, I mean it's always turn one. It's always turn one. That's where I lose all my time. It's always turn one. I don't know why I can't hit turn one right. It's always turn one. I feel like I'm really good anywhere, especially turn six. I feel very good there. I'm typically able to like pull up like 2 to 3 tenths on most people in turn six. Even more than that sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, turn one, I'll lose up to a second. Like I'm just bad.
Yeah, for me, as far as favorite track goes, I love Watkins Glen, but I have found in like the last year that I like Sonoma more. Like as far as like the fun factor goes, like Watkins Glen, like ripping it through the bus stop is a good thrill, but like I mean that's really it for that track. But Sonoma, has so much elevation change and up and down swooping to it. You've got the first like uphill chicane S's kind of thing going
Yep.
on in 3A, 3B. Then you go down the hill and there's the hard right. Then you've got the O'Reilly corner, which is always a blast to hit perfectly. And then you go down into the S's, which are left, right, and they get increasingly sharper up and down the hills and stuff. And then, of course, the final hairpin, which is always a blast to see how deep you can get it into. So I like Sonoma a lot more, and I do just as good as on Sonoma as I do on almost any other road course. A fictional
It's
track, I'll say for me, one that has been in my head that I've only ever ran online once when it was released was Denver Motorsports Park that APT put out a while ago. I remember when it first came out, Robert Panko hosted like a special race, and we did. And it was a ton of fun. It was chassis 5, basically, like, it's like a Auto Club Michigan hybrid in a way, 2.25 mile oval.
okay.
So it was like kind of like Auto Club banking, if not less. But it was chassis 5, so you were hauling the mail down the straightaway into the corner, and then you had to like really slow it down. And I had figured something out in that race where I was faster than Cosman, and I had never been faster than Cosman. Sadly, we had a bit of a controversial yellow that brought the end to a long green flag run, and I ended up something happened, and me and Cosman ended up wrecking, and it killed our race. But it was a fun time.
It sounds fun.
All right, so have you ever? I know a few people that are on controller, and they've done controller on iRacing. Have you ever tried it?
I that's too expensive for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Just straight up. Like I do want to do iRacing eventually. Like I do want to do it, but that is an investment, and I something that I've noticed is that once you start involving money into sim racing, people drive a lot more like complete idiots.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
like
I feel the same way.
I don't know how much I would actually enjoy going on to iRacing and driving against people because I know I know I'm going to go on there and I know I'm going to get cleaned out by people. And I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big pro and con. You know, I've had people tell me like, oh yeah, you should do it, but this does suck. Like, oh, like you know, you randomly get touched by someone and they spin out, and suddenly you get a 4x when you didn't even do anything. So, there are some things that are frustrating about it, but a lot of people still say that it's a ton of fun. I guess certain cars and tracks and stuff, which you know, it does sound fun when people say, oh yeah, let's run the Miatas at Charlotte Oval. Like, yeah, that sounds like a super speedway race in Mazdas. Like, yeah, that sounds like a fun time. Like, there's some pretty cool stuff you can do on iRacing that you can't do on NR. But, you know,
Right.
there are people that are actively out there now that are, you know, doing more fun EXEs. They know how to tweak. So, you know, MOT has that going. The bump and run EXE I mentioned, we accelerate relatively slowly, and at most we get up to like when we ran it at the Glen, we were doing like I think 135 at the end into the bus stop. So you barely had to crack the throttle to throw it into the bus stop. It was a ton of fun.
That definitely does sound like fun. Yeah. So like if I'm gonna do iRacing, I want to get back into sports car racing. Like I'm gonna get into iRacing because I want to do LMP2.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
that's that's what I want to do because if there's one class that I had so much fun with in Gran Turismo, it was playing with the Le Mans prototypes, but we restricted their horsepower to like 500,
Okay.
and it was so much fun driving the low horsepower, low weight Le Mans prototypes. They were so fun. I want to do LMP2 if I go over to iRacing.
Right on. Yeah. That sounds like you'd have a good time. Have you ever gotten to meet anybody from the NR community?
Well, we were going to try to meet Crystal and Keon. We're going to try to meet up at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway this year, but unfortunately that fell through, mainly because my family decided to book a vacation during that exact day that they wanted me up there in New Hampshire, and I have to watch her dog
Ah, that's a
because
shame.
it's a 200-pound dog.
A 200-pound dog.
I'm not even kidding. And it's not a fat dog either. Like it's just that big.
What breed is it? I know there are some
It,
big ones
it's
out there.
a it's a cross between a Great Dane and a Black Lab.
Okay, yeah, big dog.
It is a huge dog. Like if this dog got on its hind legs, I think it would be about 8 feet tall. Like this dog very easily could play linebacker for the Green Bay Packers.
That's a funny image in my head right now. All the AI stuff that's out there now, that's like
Yes.
I've been seeing
Ugh.
videos of AI of dogs doing diving competition, and it's just so goofy, like what people come up with, and then like it looks like decently realistic now than it did like compared to like a year or two ago. So it's like, yeah, I can easily picture a Great Dane in a Green Bay Packer uniform thanks to all the AI stuff out there. So let's talk other interests. You know, we've pretty much covered all we can here for NR. So let's talk other interests. We call it the music, movies, TV shows, etc. So we'll just start with the one everyone knows about. Let's say, you know, what the hell got you into J-pop?
Yes, yes, let's go. Okay, this is the fun part. So this has basically been a revelation. So the funniest part about me getting into J-pop is it was because of a wrestling video game. What? Hear me out. So this
This is the
all
what
this
himself.
So here we go. So I had a Nintendo 64. Had it. I don't have it anymore. I wish I still had it, but I had a Nintendo 64. And one of the games on the Nintendo 64 is what is considered to be the greatest wrestling game of all time. WWF No Mercy. I freaking love that game so much. It is so much fun to play. All of the wrestlers in the game, you can basically pick anyone. You can compete against anyone, and The AI is fun against the controllers are so fluid. Like the only way that you'd be able to tell that the game was made in 2000 is because of the Nintendo 64 graphics. If these animations were in a video game today, people would call it 5 stars. Like it was so fluid for a wrestling game back in 2000, and I still emulate it today. But anyways, I was basically curious. I'm like, hey, this company that made this game, I wonder what other stuff that they ended up doing in the past 25 years. So I end up, doing a quick Google search. What did Aki Corp end up doing? Of course, they made the Def Jam Vendetta games. I knew about that already. But after Def Jam Vendetta, I realized that they rebranded. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So what did they rebrand to? They rebranded to a company called Sin Sophia. And they went into the business of making rhythm arcade games that were idle based. So I was like, okay, that seems pretty cool. Well, let me go ahead and look up one of these. Let me go ahead and look up one of these shows. And I see, okay, so one of the shows that they make is called Puripara. I was like, okay. Oh, let's just watch the first episode of the anime, and maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't. Worst that'll happen, I waste 22 minutes of my time, right? So I go into the show, and I instantly fall in love with the entire universe. I fall in love with the music, everything, and it basically pulls me into a tailwind of like, it would be really cool if I could do exactly what these characters are doing on stage. And that's what eventually got me into touring across all of these different anime conventions on the East Coast, going out to Sandusky for Colossal Con, going all the way out to Akron for ZipCon Final Umatopia, going out to Zenkai Con this year for Lancaster. I'll be showing up to Techo and Otakon as well. I won't be performing at either of those conventions, sadly, but I will at least be there for a day. And I've really gotten involved within a community that tries to, well, that not tries to, but actually does emulate the music style from over in Japan. And emulate the dance style and whatnot. And they're called Kaigai idols, and they are some of the most wonderful people that I've ever met. And the community in general is really just so supportive, and they really want the best for what everybody they really want the best for everyone in the community. And since I was just so welcomed in, I decided, what would happen if I really try to start singing and dancing a lot better? And so I did, and I've gotten into performing myself, and I've had so much fun performing at these different conventions, being able to travel up and down the East Coast. I love doing that stuff. I love going out to new places, meeting new people, seeing new things, and it's just been super fun ever since I've moved down here to Harrisburg. I've been able to just go out and do stuff. I'm not just tethered down to some place because I have to watch someone's animals. I live on my own with my girlfriend, but I live on my own, and I can actually go out to the world, and I can do stuff now, and I can be myself. I can go to these conventions and just do awesome performances for people. So that's basically the gist of it. Like, it's just a super cool community of a lot of really supportive people. The neurodivergence is off the charts, and that's not a bad thing at all. And I just love the energy of the community. It is so different from any other music community that you can get into, because there's so many different ways to get into the community. You could be just a singer, you could be just a dancer, you could do both and try to do both on stage, which is really exhausting to try to do, because trying to sing and dance at the same time is really hard. You have the people that just like do audio mixing for the community and create the like composers that'll create the music in a J-pop style. You have the fans themselves that do their own crazy stuff. Like, you have the call and mix that go along with every song. Like there will be certain chants that go along with every single song, and the crowds will chant these at the stuff at the performers. There's also the light stick dances that people do called Wotagay, and that's another way for fans to get involved in it, where people just do these crazy arm movements with the light sticks. I don't know how they do it. They're so incredible. And there's just so many different shenanigans that you can experience at one of these concerts. It is so much fun to get out to these idol shows, to these conventions. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a ton of fun. Hearing about how welcoming the community was is really cool. There's so many different like little communities around different things in each category, whether it's like music or video games or whatnot.
Hmm.
I follow some Super Metroid speedrunners on YouTube and Twitch, and they have like a really cool community. They've got a ton of people involved, and I was huge on Metroid Fusion growing up for the Game Boy. Never got to play. I've never gotten to play Super Metroid, but the funny thing is I've watched so many speedruns that I would pretty much know what to do just because I've watched hours and hours of speedruns. So it's pretty funny. I've thought about trying to maybe get into that community at some point, but I just NR is like kind of like my staple at this point, so I'm kind of just like, yeah, I like being in the NR community. I don't know if I could get integrated into another one. Like I'm only have so much time in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, that is another thing, is that some hobbies are definitely time consuming. Like one hobby that I've always wanted to get into is chess, actually. I really enjoy playing chess. I like watch chess videos all the time. I'm a subscriber to Gotham Chess. I find him to be hilarious. Um and there's also, I can't remember what his channel's name, but the guy's name is Nelson. I also find him to be super cool as well. But between sim racing and all the idle stuff, and the fact that I got a standard job on top of all of this too, and I got to be able to take care of myself. Like I, I ain't got time to pick up another hobby as much as I would love to do it. You know what I mean?
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm trying to get back into the whole book writing thing of mine, and I've got to you know put in the commitment and time to like do that. I can't just be
Yep.
racing every night. So I've already got a plan in my head for next year. I'll probably only be racing 2 nights a week. Right now, there are a couple of leagues that I'm racing, and I also have some Tuesdays where I'm doing commentary for Hobo Racing League with Andrew Miller. And then I've got one last Maverick race plan to do next month. They're running the Glen. So, but yeah, like sim racing wise, I got to cut back because there was, I think, not last year, but 2 years ago, I had been doing offline leagues for a while, and we like finished up a league, and I was gonna do my own league for one more year last year, and I was just like, you know what, I'm burned out. Like I don't have the mental willpower to just push through and do this one last year. So I was like, it's just not going to happen. And I don't even have an interest in doing it anymore. Like I took time that I was doing that to do other stuff. So, and
Of
plus I got
course.
the mock series that I want to do in my own free time. I stat track that for fun. So I've got to take some of the time away from doing that to go back into the writing too. So, you have to balance all your hobbies and the best way that works.
And that's not particularly an easy thing to do.
Okay, so we're looking at a little bit of NASCAR news here to change the topic. I was looking to see if I could find practice results, but I do see here apparently Denny Hamlin suffered an engine issue in practice, so I'm not sure what happened to him there. They're about to
That's
begin
unfortunate.
qualifying, so I was trying to find practice results. Any other interests other than chess and the J-pop, of course, whether it's TV, movies, etc.
Yeah, those are the two big things. I'm also kind of a big baseball fan on the side as well.
Right on.
Yeah, like I've been basically a lifelong fan of the Tampa Bay Rays. As far as how I got attached to that organization, I don't know. Ask MLB 06 the show. That's just the game that I ended. That's just the team I ended up playing with. And yeah, like I follow baseball and I like catching a game if it's on.
Right on.
I got the practice times up here. Looks like Bubba Wallace on top of the charts.
Yeah, I'm seeing apparently Byron was fastest and then he got in the wall. So here's an interesting thing. So according to first practice, Byron lapped the circuit with a 1:31.008, which is funny to look at because in NR we're running like 7 seconds faster than what they're really running.
Yeah.
So kind of comical how that all lines up, but I heard from somebody who was running the next gen car at the street course in iRacing that they were running slower down the straightaways than we are in NR, which I think is, our cup physics 20 years ago were a lot different than they are now. So naturally
Yes.
the cars are slower down the straightaway, but they were going faster through the corner. But so apparently I think too the real life track I think is still tighter than what we're actually running in NR. So I can see how we are so much faster. We've got more room to traverse and whatnot.
And the 300 extra horsepower certainly doesn't hurt.
Oh yes, of course. 300 extra horsepower.
You figure the cup physics in NR. I mean, it doesn't matter what mod you're running. Like you're still running the 900 horsepower Beast Gen 4 package. It's just and the cup cars nowadays pull 670 on a good day.
Oh yeah, I mean it would be fun if they flirted with adding a little more horsepower to the next gen car. They don't have to add a lot, I don't think. Just give them like another 150 or so.
Yeah, I think that if they just take the tapered spacer off the car, I think that these cars could put on a really good show on the road courses and the short tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't got anything else, so I want to thank you, Apollo, for joining me for today's episode of Who's That Driver. As we were talking about the J-pop stuff, reminded me of your Discord user message there. Join me in Idleland, so that'll be today's episode name. I think quite fitting for you as the guest. So
I like that a lot.
I'm gonna go find a screenshot of us racing together at Rockingham, I think, from the spring, and make the thumbnail, edit this baby up, and everyone will get to listen to this on Monday afternoon. So again, thank you, Apollo, and feel free to shout anybody out at all here for the end of this episode.
Yeah, I thank you very much for having me on here for this. It's definitely been a blast. It's always a blast racing with you. And if I'm going to shout anybody out, I guess I'm going to shout out the three main Kai Guy Idol artists that I follow, that being Pawn Ranger, Aiden, and Alex Pinku. Those three are absolutely phenomenal. Go out of your way to look up their music. They are so, so good. And if you are in the Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia area, they typically put on concerts like once every other month. Someone's putting on a concert once every other month down there. If you can ever get to see any of those three, go see them. They are so talented, and the energy that their fans bring is something you'll never be able to experience anywhere else.
Oh, right on. Thank you for that, Apollo. Thanks again for joining, and thank you to all the listeners for supporting Who's That Driver, and we'll see who we get to join us next week for episode 17. Until then, thanks for listening to today's episode, and I'll see y'all for the next one.